Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to discuss the latest Brexit row after the Tory client media had a whine at the EU again for not solving all our problems for us. In this case, asylum problems of our own making. But the EU Commission have responded by saying that the media claims are not actually true, which is a little odd. Are they really suggesting that the gutter press weren't telling the truth? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So asylum is rumbling on as a topic even into this week. Even though the government tried to make last week Asylum Week and it ended in disaster. No, apparently we're supposed to carry on. Usually this is only an issue for countries who take in quite heroic numbers of refugees, of course. In recent years, Germany and Poland have basically taken in 1 million at a time. Our few thousand a year is pathetic by comparison. Yet the Tories make out that we're taking more than our fair share. So before I have my little rant at this latest bit of petulance, what is the asylum deal that Rishi Sunak has been trying to strike with the EU? Is it, as Labour are proposing, some sort of mutually agreeable replacement for our exit from the Dublin Agreement? No, it doesn't seem to be anything like that. Sunak simply wants to be able to send asylum seekers back to France. It's like they're trying to do everything they can to stop them getting here. When they do, it's like, right, we're taking you back to France. Now, I've said before, if we had a processing centre in France, and France are absolutely cool with the idea of that, by the way, we can then send them there, process their claim. If they fail it, deport them. If they don't, bring them here. But no, we're just talking about dumping them in France again. You know, and it's like, it's not actually fair to characterise it like that, by the way. I should really say that Sunak's not that bothered whether it's France or any other European country, but he wants to dump them somewhere. They will just want to... Sunak had wanted the deal specifically with France, but President Macron had told him to go bother the EU Commission, so he did. Sunak apparently thought that the thawing relations after the Windsor Framework Agreement would unlock deals like this. And it's like, okay, we agreed to abide by the withdrawal agreement that we also agreed to abide by years ago, but we haven't been doing. Now that we've done that, now that we've done you a favour, can you solve all our problems for us? And apparently the EU have been spiteful for saying, no, they're your problems. In fact, the way the Telegraph put it a couple of days ago was that the EU had said they would not entertain any sort of asylum returns deal. And I think I mentioned a time, and maybe in a stream, that I thought that was maybe the Telegraph trying to dump on Labour's idea, so that when Labour say, you know, because that is one of their formal policies, we're going to seek a replacement for the Dublin Agreement, they can go, oh no, the EU have already ruled it out. However, the EU Commission have fired back and saying that the alleged statement was never made. Now, that is not to say the EU are open to a one-sided asylum returns agreement. After all, why should they? People flee war and persecution because some bell end in some part of the world is allowed to run amok. The world collectively could stop people being bell ends, but they choose not to because, let's be honest, when countries do interfere, historically countries like the US and the UK do a bit, we tend to make a right pig's ear of it. So the international community agrees to mostly keep its nose out unless it spills over to next door. But in return, at least accept the responsibility to care for people who manage to flee the bell end. The UK has a responsibility to do its share, and we never do. Not that it should even be seen as quite the burden I've characterised it as there. I believe half of all people granted asylum in the UK are classed as key workers. We've got a hell of a shortage. It's not like the other half don't find work either. Instead of spending billions in avoiding processing their claims, we could not only save on that money spent, but be raising more money with higher productivity. This latest attempt by the government to just subcontract out our asylum obligations to the EU, it's very Tory, isn't it? Like, I don't know what the exact detail of the proposal was, but I'm quite sure it will have been to pay the EU to just handle it. You know, like the bilateral agreement with France. Here's £500 million, just make the problem go away. They do it all the time, don't they? When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year, European countries very quick to take in refugees, not the UK. We eventually came up with a convoluted asylum process, which was still better than that for most war zones in the world, because a safe route was at least possible, albeit you needed to complete the Krypton factor to get through it. But initially, the UK government tried to resist taking refugees in at all, by providing funding for other countries to do so. Boris Johnson talked about the money being provided for humanitarian efforts, as if signing a cheque would sort it all out. always makes me laugh. You know the saying when the capitalists will say, oh, the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. An incredibly backwards philosophy, as the reaction of all capitalist governments to any problem is to throw other people's money at it. They did it last year to avoid any humanitarian efforts of their own. More globally, they came up with the idea of carbon credits, not just the Tories, but ones around the world. Instead of reducing carbon emissions, it's very important to reduce carbon emissions, but instead of doing that, why don't we just pay other countries to put our emissions on their tally? And now the government are trying the same thing to deal with asylum. Instead of actually reverting back to a functioning asylum system when it wasn't an issue, they just want to throw our money at the EU and ask them to sort it all out. I suppose it should come as no surprise for ministers largely from wealthy, privileged backgrounds. Whenever they perceived a problem in their lives growing up, did they see their parents go, right, we need to deal with this? No, they just saw them paying to get someone else to do it. But it doesn't work in government. Apart from anything else, they're not using their own money. And this isn't like hiring a professional to sort out your knackered car. This is trying to shirk international obligations. But also, the failure of Sunak to agree any sort of asylum deal with the EU, or even look like he's making progress, is because of a fundamentally backward way of thinking. I've pointed it out before. So the way you negotiate an agreement on any level, whether it's with your boss or whether it's with an entire country or a block of countries, it's to be clear about the outcomes you want, but be flexible about the vehicle used to deliver it. And that is because your negotiating partner wants things too, and you have to find an offer that is mutually agreeable. So you cannot be too rigid in the how, just the what I want. The EU strikes deals all the time. Huge trade deals, smaller bilateral deals, all the time. But we're asking them for a thing, often something quite unreasonable, and giving no thought to what they might want in return. And this row works against efforts to strike further deals as well. Like, look what's actually happened here. Sunak presented a clearly unacceptable proposal to the EU. They've gone, oh, this needs work, Rishi Miel's son. The Tory press then reported that the EU are being obstinate, so you create the impression that the UK government are acting in bad faith again. After all, someone must have leaked the information to the Telegraph. It's not clear to me whether accurate information was leaked to them and they just falsified it for their report, or if someone leaked incomplete information to them, which they just interpreted in the Brexiteest way possible. But it paints the UK government yet again as being spoiled brats, stamping their feet when they're not allowed ice cream for breakfast. Now, this is not going to help Sunak strike mutually beneficial deals if he's seen to leave meetings. Every time he doesn't immediately get what he wants, he just goes crying to the press and then they create an international incident. And maybe it's not Sunak who's doing the stropping. Maybe it's someone else, but it's someone that he has power over. It's damaging. He should be showing some leadership and dealing with the indiscipline. And one final point, this isn't directly related to our ham-fisted attempts to negotiate with the EU, but just a comment in the article on the rebuttal today. It quoted a Tory minister saying that the government were doing lots of things to deal with migration. It's like, well, it's not just one thing, complex problem, lots of things. Okay, fair enough. He said that the deterrent factor was working. Now, we know that their so-called deterrent factors are a joke, but I thought I'd at least check out the latest Home Office data. Now, asylum claims, according to the latest Home Office data, are higher than when we were in the EU, way higher. Of course, some of it will be specific events, war in Ukraine, political tomfoolery in Hong Kong, sure. But there hasn't been anything new this year globally that would cause a surge in asylum seekers coming towards the UK. But the Home Office data shows more claims in each of the latest quarters than in the previous corresponding quarter. In other words, Home Office data say claims are going up. Not sure on what basis the minister is saying the deterrent factor is working, but it's certainly not the basis of the data. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.